Despite our planet being called Earth, approximately 70% of its surface is covered by water, and as expected within the depths of its oceans. There are amazing things yet to be discovered and others that have already been discovered, like the ones we will see next. Top 10 amazing and shocking things found in the depths of water. 10 125-year-old beer. Canadian citizens, probably everyone knows the Alexander Keith beer brand. Well, in November of 2015, a diver named John Krause was surprised to discover at the bottom of the ocean, off the coast of Halifax, a bottle of this brand of beer that was still sealed. Experts quickly concluded that the bottle was from the year 1870, making it only 3 years younger than Canada itself. They even tasted the beer and described it as having a cherry flavor, among other tree fruits, and a slight taste of rotten egg. Lost silver from World War II in 1941. The British merchant ship Nico steamship Gale So AP set off from Calcutta with a valuable cargo of 2,800 bars of silver. However, halfway through its journey, it was caught in a storm, and the ship was forced to head to Galway Harbor, where it was sunk by a submarine. German, 500 kilometers off the coast of Ireland, 70 years later in 2011. The ship was found by a treasure hunting company that took 5 years to recover. 48 tons of silver ingots from the shipwreck, thus making it the largest recovery of precious metals in maritime history. This find had an approximate value of about $55 million. Surely everyone knows the historic mission of Apollo 11 in 1969, when man landed on the moon, and Neil Armstrong said the iconic phrase, "This is one small step for man, but a giant leap for mankind." However, what many people don't know is that the Saturn V rocket, which propelled men to the moon, had 5 engines that fell somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, and nothing more was known about them. However, 5 years ago, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos set out to find them, and he financed an expedition to find those engines, which appeared almost 2.5 miles deep, but only 2 of them. Apparently, Bezos plans to restore these engines to develop a company that offers trips to the moon for the modest price of $100 million. 7 metal balls in the Atlantic Ocean. Scientists who were in the Atlantic Ocean to study marine organisms found something a bit more unusual than they expected. During the investigation, they hooked something that turned out to be buried metal balls, now known as manganese balls. These balls also occur in other oceans and have grown on their own through crystallization over more than 1 million years. When these were discovered, it was a great shock to the researchers, especially because some of them are perfectly round to this day. And even though they have a totally reasonable explanation, there are those who claim they are from extraterrestrial origin. 6. The lost city of Heracleion, the city of Zonis, or Heracleion, as the ancient Greeks used to call it, was born from the 4th to the 6th century before Christ. This Egyptian city sank somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea between the 1st and 3rd century Anno Domini, leaving no trace or evidence whatsoever. For many centuries, people thought that Heracleion was a legend, a mythical city that was visited by Helen of Troy and her lover. However, in the year 2000, it was discovered submerged more than 150 feet in the Bay of Abu Qir. Since then, scientists have discovered thousands of statues, 64 ships, stones with inscriptions, and limestone sarcophagi. So far, only a part of the city has been excavated, but it already gives us a vision of the importance it had in the ancient times. 5. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. This discovery found in the Baltic Sea in June of 2011. It created a real debate, with about 60 meters wide by 7 high. They say it could be a Nazi device designed to block the radar detection of British and Russian submarines that were used during the World War II. In fact, explorers, when they passed through the Baltic, C. Assure that their radars and even their satellite phones stop working when they get about 200 meters from the site. However, ufologists see it in another way. They believe it is an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Very ancient. 4. The Mayan Underworld. The ancient Mayans believed that for the deceased to reach the afterlife, they had to bury the body in caves that were like portals to the other world, accompanied by a blind dog, which would show them the way to Xibalba. In 2008, on the Yucatan Peninsula, scientists discovered huge underwater caves, large enough to contain stone temples, sculptures, and human remains. This reflected that the belief that the Mayans faced great dangers to worship their deceased is real, since this cave is passing a mysterious passage on a path of almost 100 meters that leads directly to the water. Now, scientists are studying whether the beliefs were inspired by the existence of the caves, or if the Mayans created these as part of their religious beliefs. 3. The Yeti crab. You've probably seen many types of crabs in your lifetime, but you've likely never seen one like this, known as the Yeti crab. This species was discovered in 2005 in the South Pacific Ocean. Its discovery required a team of scientists to determine the new species. This crab is not only special because it has hair, but it also has well-defined eyes, and its own food and bacteria it needs to feed on grow on it. Its fur. 2. The galleon San Jose, built in 1696, this Spanish galleon was lost in 1708 after being involved in a battle in the English seas. The 27th of November, 2015. The remains of the ship were found along with its treasure in the Caribbean Sea. According to reports, on its way to France, the ship was loaded with gold, silver, and emeralds when it sank along with 600 people. For all these years and before the discovery, historians assumed that the ship had exploded, however, when they found it. Many of the objects from this ship, like the cannons and weapons, are still intact, and the recovered treasure has an estimated value between $3 billion and $17 billion. 1. The underwater forest. Normally, under the sea there are treasures and ruined cities, but finding a forest is probably quite strange. Or a diver named Dan Watson. He found in 2015 an incredible underwater forest off the coast of North Florida. According to experts, these trees can be around 10,000 years old, and it's very likely they've been hidden underwater since the Ice Age. Back then, the forest was part of Doggerland,